if you want to support the show, any of the shows, either this or whichever show, I'm not on right now because this is just a blanket ad for all of them, and the website, you can go to bewareofspoilers.com. In the description for any of the episodes of Beware of Spoilers, there is the option to donate. If you don't want to donate that way, you can donate directly through the website. We do have that, mwpnews.com. And if you don't want to support that way, then going to mwpnews.com will help out because we have ads there. We don't want to keep it, where there's a lot of ads. There's a few ads. But the point is we want to make it so that way, we can sustain this for the long term. If people donate, we're never going to paywall anything, I don't think, as of right now. But if people, start donating, we'll start doing cooler and cooler stuff. Like donations are how we get to cover stuff like Tribeca and other, film festivals. And, we may be able to bring on more people to help out. So if you want to help out the show and you want more content from us, by all means, even just going and giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify helps out a lot. But that's it. That's the only ad we'll have on the podcast ever. But here's whatever podcast you're going to be listening to. Good morning, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam, take 2, because the first one wasn't very good. What we have today, because I started talking about the wrong show, is what the problem was, because I'm exhausted. And what we have today, for real, is, go ahead, but I started talking about a different show, and I was like, wait, I didn't watch that yet. I was either going to watch it at work or watch it, while I was, tonight, and then do an episode tomorrow. But the point is, we're here to talk about Doctor Who, episode 6 of season 1. Yeah, because there's 8 episodes, we're on episode 6, so there's 2 more, the 2-part finale. And this one is called Rogue, which features Jonathan Groff from Hamilton, and more recently, he was in that movie, the M. Night Shyamalan movie last year, with the cabin. A Knock at the Door. That's the name of the movie. And he's playing this bounty hunter character who has this relationship with the Doctor. And I actually really enjoyed this episode a lot. I think that I have a lot of issues with dialogue this season. Maybe this is just something that as I rewatch Doctor Who, I'm going to realize is because I've been rewatching, the thing as I go. Because, I give Moffat a lot of shit, but there was a thing that went around on Tumblr 10 years ago, 15 years ago almost, talking about Moffat's writing style, and the thing they said about him was he's very good at writing moments, but not not connecting the moments together. And I'm thinking back, and I'm like, that it's not wrong, because he did he did have a lot of really great, moments during his run. The whole thing with Pandorica, and I love the way they wove in but it just everything around that kind of sucked. So, what I'm trying to make is, I've been rewatching it, and then also, I kind of fell off during Capaldi, and I want to catch back up. And I watched the first episode of Flux, but I want to kind of get through to where we are now. All of that notwithstanding, we are at, the dialogue does continue to not be my favorite thing about this, by a long shot. I think that a lot of the dialogue is a little, I don't want to say cringy, but a little, not great, and I think that's been a recurring issue this entire season. I do love, how to pronounce his name, Ncuti Gatwa's interpretation of the Doctor. I think he does a fantastic job of playing similar but different enough where it's this is, this is a great way to tell this character. And what it is here is they go to 19th century England. I think it's 19th century England, and they're at a party, and they keep talking about Bridgerton the entire time they're there. And there are these shape-shifting aliens, not the Trigon, a different shape-shifting alien race, that kill the victim for taking their form, and all they do is to cosplay. While they're there, they run into this mysterious bounty hunter who calls himself Rogue. We don't know his real name, which still leads to speculation as we get to the finale. Because look, I think one of the things about this show and this season is, in a lot of ways, it's not a perfect one-to-one, but it's kind of a reflection of the first season of the revival, back with Christopher Eccleston. You have this character who, you have the blonde companion. You have, in the beginning, it kind of mirrored the way they went on these adventures. Kind of mirrored the way they did in the first one, in the first batch of episodes. The whole thing, and I'm surprised we haven't seen a Dalek yet, which you would think they would have by this point. Like, no Daleks, no Cybermen, and especially for this is the first season of Disney Plus running Doctor Who. Like, Disney Plus having having Doctor Who, you'd think they'd be like, hey, can you just throw one in there maybe? Just one. Just one would be nice. I'm not saying all, just one. Maybe there is something in late, Whitaker that I don't know that kind of explains why there are none, but, it is what it is. The point I'm trying to make is, after all of this, is I think this guy, Rogue, continues that, because he's very clearly the John Barrowman character, the Captain Jack Harkness. And I think he plays it very well. Like, the whole relationship between him and the Doctor, this kind of flirty kind of, budding romance the two of them have, is very interesting and very very well acted between the two of them. The two of them have great chemistry, and I think that they handle that whole thing very well, and it does make for interesting situations. And essentially when you get to the point where he's like, look, I'm going to kill you because you're obviously a shapeshifter, and he's like, well, that's not really the case, and he's stuck on that that ground that's like, if this will turn into a portal and teleport you to an incinerator. It's like, that whole scene is great, and he's like, look, just run a DNA scan, you'll see. Which I'm like, well, why wouldn't you do that in the first place? But I do really think that they handle that all very kind of well in this episode. And now, there are multiple ways to interpret this. Is this young Jack Harkness? Because they can't use older Jack Harkness because, number one, time. It's been like 20 years, and they can't. John Barrowman has aged, and number two, John Barrowman has aged poorly because he apparently was not a great person on the set of both Doctor Who and Torchwood, among other things. There were multiple allegations against him, which is why he hasn't come back in quite some time. I think the lead on Torchwood, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong. I don't want to be too wrong. I'm fairly certain the lead on Torchwood did make some allegations against him. I forgot her name. But regardless, so you can't use him, so what do? You do a younger Jack Harkness. Okay, this is him. Maybe that's the case. Maybe this is just, again, part of this wider narrative, where we talked about it back with the episode with Maestro, this idea that, okay, so is this going to be a season where we talk about, where it's like we are building towards this idea that there are these gods in the universe that are, physical manifestations of more abstract constructs, the toy maker, the Maestro. So, could we be dealing with one who is a writer? And we've said this before, and could that be Susan Twist? who's been showing up in every episode. And again, I said it before, and I'll say it again, I'm not particularly fond of the fact that they point out that she keeps appearing over and over again. I'd rather it just be like, oh, this is why she's appearing. Or like, oh, here's this person, like, wait, I saw it, and then the viewer can figure it out. Because, like, I don't remember, because Clara in season 7 showed up a few times before she, before she made her formal appearance as a companion in the 7B premiere. Because she appeared in the Graveyard of the Daleks, which was episode 1, and then I want to say she was in like episode 2 or episode 3. And that was because she followed the Doctor's time stream on Trenzalore, but that's a whole other issue. Like, if that's the, I don't know, just like, I don't remember them making a big deal out of it until it's time to make a big deal out of it. Like, they don't make a big deal out of it until he runs into her the third time, and it's after Amy and Rory died. Fuck, I'm not talking about Amy and Rory dying again, because I've expressed my misgivings about the way that was handled, but it's the whole thing is, I don't get, you know, I would rather they didn't point it out as often as they do. Because like now it's like when she says, I was like, oh look, it's that lady again. It's like, okay, great. Now, could it be she is, or she is just the mother of these people, like the Kronos to the Greek gods? And could that be what we're looking at here? It could be an interesting approach to telling the story, but I don't know if that's going to be the way it goes. And then there's this other little wrinkle where there's this other show that's on iPlayer. I don't know, I didn't look. Let me preface this with that. I didn't look. So I don't know if it's on Disney Plus as well, but it's called Tales of the TARDIS. It's this other little thing where it's like, it's mostly designed to introduce and bookend episodes of the original show that ran until Sylvester McCoy's run, where it reunites the companions and the Doctor in, they call it the Memory TARDIS, which is an amalgam of all the various iterations of the TARDIS, and they reminisce on the adventure. And because the Memory TARDIS feeds on those memories. The fact that there's going to be an episode of Tales of the TARDIS in between this week's episode and the finale, but with 15 and Ruby, there could be something going on there. And it appeared in the preview that it's going to play into this. Now, it's going to be weird for American audiences if this is not available in the States, because it's like, did we miss something? I'm going to have to, figure out how to get, how to get iPlayer to work, but it is what it is. It's an interesting conundrum that they find themselves in with this. I'm interested to see where this show goes, and I hope they stick the landing. I'm just not overly optimistic about it in a weird way. Like, I don't think the show is going to end in a satisfying way, because there's a lot of loose ends that still need to be tied up. And this isn't even talking about the fact that it canonized Richard E. Grant, which does also throw a bunch of things into... I mean, look, let's Doctor Who has always been kind of a bit of a muddy mess when it comes to how it handles its regenerations, where it's like, okay, so the rule was you could regenerate 12 times 13 iterations. Okay, great, that's a weird limit to put on, but okay. So they, and we knew one of them was going to be the Valyard at some point. So really, whatever, it is what it is. And I do still think we could get to a point where... Oh, that's great. This guy's got a fucking hate group sticker on his car. I love that we just live in that world. But look, it was a weird situation to be put in as that happened. So it's like, okay, so Richard E. Grant, I think, was an alternate 9th Doctor, where he was in a radio play or a comic or something. But the issue is we see all the regenerations around this era, because we see, what's it called? We do see, the Night of the Doctors, where we see 8 McGann regenerate into the War Doctor, the intermediary doctor that was between McGann and Eccleston. And then at the end of at the end of Day of the Doctor, we see him regenerate into presumably Eccleston. And this episode does play around with alternate universes, and that's something that Doctor Who has played with in the past, but never in any real... the multiverse is a concept that's existed in Doctor Who since, I think, season 3, in a meaningful way, because if I remember correctly, that's where they set where Rose and Beta Crisis 10 end up. Is they end up living in this parallel universe, is living out their lives there. If that's the case, then I don't know. And at the end, Rogue isn't killed. Rogue is just sent to an alternate universe, and Rogue's got to figure out a way back, or the Doctor has to find a way to him to save him. And it's going to be a season 15, moving on season 14 to season 15 thing next year, presumably, if at all. So we'll see how that all plays out. But I like the idea of them playing around with other universes. Could this mean that this is how they bring in, could there be some kind of, to use the word from Marvel, incursion that brings in a new Gallifrey? And what does that mean for the universe? Since Gallifrey is, if I remember correctly, again, and I could be wrong because I kind of stopped watching around the time of Matt Smith's regeneration, could Gallifrey be... Last I saw it was stuck in a painting. So if a new one were to come from another universe, then what would that mean, considering it feels like the Daleks are still out there all the time? Anytime they need, to bring them in, it's like, let's just bring them in here and see what they do and all of that. But it's interesting. Oh no, I think also the Master got sent to an alternate universe and then came back, if I remember correctly. Wasn't the Master sent to an alternate universe in the finale for 10? And then he ends up coming back, and I know there was Missy for 12, and then what's his name from Iron Fist played him in under 13, because he was in the Centenary special. But yeah, it's all a little bit weird. That said, we're gonna tune in next week and see what happens. But until our next episode, which possibly will be probably tomorrow, not tonight, have a great rest of your week.